this show, cue my title sequence! When it really came down to everything, there really was only one choice for my 300th episode. What all have we covered in more than 11 years on this show? Most of our highlights have been around bat-insane shows from the 80s, the absolute lunacy of youth entertainment, and even the full coverage of one particular show that tried to make every conflict the end of the world while blaring pop songs left and right. So, how can I not finally talk about one show that is pretty much all of that mixed up to be the biggest smoothie of crazy ever put to videotape? I spent nearly a year wondering exactly what I was going to do for this occasion, but when I was reminded of this, there was no longer any debate. Prepare yourselves for Glee before Glee, Kidz Bop before Kidz Bop, Disney tween stars before Miley Cyrus even existed, and maybe the most forgotten gem to come out of the MTV generation. For the 300th episode of TV Trash, this is Kids Incorporated! In order to figure out exactly where this particular show came from, we may first need to briefly talk about another show, Fame. Originally a 1980 musical film, it was made into a TV series 2 years later and pretty much set the standard for dramedy around teenagers dealing with the throes and pangs of life and growing up, with their biggest outlet being the stage itself. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but a year after MGM produced the Fame TV show for NBC, they ended up producing another musical TV show that would feature younger cast members and songs that, shall we say, were more hip with the time. Kids Incorporated was originally created by Gary Biller and Thomas W. Lynch, the latter of which would go on to create The Secret World of Alex Mack, another show I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten around to yet. Looking at its original creation, it's pretty surprising the show made it off the ground, and it definitely benefited from being a product of its time. That period in the early 80s when cable and expanded syndication markets left a lot of people willing to give anything a chance in order to fill time slots. I say all this because the most amazing thing about this show is that the original pilot movie never made it on the air. And there's kind of a reason the pilot didn't make it. It's not very good. It tells the story of how the first group of kids formed a band together and earned the right to perform at the club that would become the location for the show's whole run. But yeah, given how dark and poor much of the lighting and other production values are, and how many of the songs involved aren't even performed by the main cast, I can see why no one picked it up. The special did get a VHS release 2 years after it was made, having to be reworked to include Rahsaan Patterson in it, who by then had been added to the main cast. But despite the pilot's failure, MGM still gave the series enough of a green light to air on syndicated markets starting in September of 1984. Fasten your seatbelts because this crazy train ain't stopping! The show was about a quintet of kids of multiple ages and their performance group led by Mickey and his friends Gloria, Renee, Renee's younger sister Stacy, and the Kid, as played by the aforementioned Rasan Patterson. They all regularly perform at this old club called The Place, which used to be called The Palace, and apparently was at one point big enough to host acts like Elvis, but then lost one of its A's on the neon sign out front, and is basically now an inner city version of the Bronze. In between performing live for all these other kids, our main characters would have to routinely deal with the multiple conflicts that would get involved in their lives. You know, stuff that normal kids have to deal with at one point or another. Dealing with bullies, catching vandals and practical jokers, a gender-flipped Prince and the Pauper tale, befriending ghosts and aliens.
Come with you? Where?
Back to my planet. I'm gonna use you for my school project. A real live Earth specimen.
Unfortunately, it only took one season for the show to start its cast turnover that would plague it for its entire run. Jerry Sherrill, who played Mickey, left after season 1, supposedly due to creative differences over how silly the stories could get. Despite his character having been billed as the leader of the band, the show pressed on as Ryan Lambert was brought in to replace Jerry. And thus began the time of the show that most people who grew up with it seem to remember the most fondly, with the cast of Ryan, Rashawn, Stacey Ferguson, Renee Sands, and Martica Marrero as Gloria. Oh yeah, we're gonna get there. The backup band and dance cast weren't shy on talent either. The dancers included Wendy Brainard, who also got roles in They Live, Teen Witch, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And then there was the drummer. Maybe you've heard of him. His name was Mario Lopez. I almost forgot to mention the other regular member of the cast, Riley, who pretty much runs the place. In his spare time, he mostly dreams of being the next Tony Stark with his inventions. Yeah, do I even need to say he's the comic relief?
By the way, Riley, whatever happened to your invention?
Oh, I got rid of that. Instead of making toast every time I said make me toast, it made me toast every time I said anything. We now have an entire storeroom full of toast.
Oh, Riley!
Despite all of this, the show was still pretty tepid with viewers in 1985 and came very close to getting the axe after just 2 seasons. Except for... Yep, even the devil incarnate himself ended up doing something good, even if it wasn't his intent. While the show getting bounced around time slots due to being in syndication negatively affected ratings, the reruns on what was then called the Christian Broadcasting Network were actually doing pretty well. This convinced Disney to pick up the show and give it a regular fixed time slot on their own fledgling cable network. It was during seasons 2 and 3 that the show pretty much stabilized. Most of the episodes settled down to being your typical slice-of-life stories that kids' shows were known for, especially back then. Like dealing with first crushes, not being the youngest in the family anymore, or learning about fame going to your head, the usual tripe. They did keep some of the fantasy elements in the show, like the time Stacy may or may not have gone to Never Never Land. That's not to say there weren't some problems with some of these episodes. For instance, there was the one where Renee has to get used to wearing glasses. She never wears glasses again for the rest of her time on the show. But let's be honest. No one watched this show for the plots. They watched for some of the craziest, most insane cover songs ever put to microphone.
Tell me, doctor, where are you going this time? Is this the 50s or 1999?
Just give me a shot, just give me a shot, just give me
Usually, an episode would begin with the group performing one song at the place, then set up the primary conflict for the story, go back to another stage performance before carrying on with that pesky story. We'd get about 2 more musical numbers off stage before the conflict is ultimately resolved, and then we close out one final number on stage with as much 80s flair as you can possibly handle. See, people, there is actual video evidence to prove the legends are true. We really did dress like that back then. If there's one episode that might fully encapsulate just how crazy the show could be, it might be The Phantom of the Place, which opens with a performance of Josie Cotton's He Could Be the One, then we get Ryan's guitar mysteriously disappearing, followed by the band's cover of the Never-Ending Story theme. More objects keep disappearing around the place as we get renditions of Somebody's Watching Me and an actual original piece in Things That Go Bump in the Night, before everyone finds out the Phantom is this con man named Brendan Roberts, who was an off-and-on adversary to the kids in the show, but now wants to join the band, but of course they all send him packing, and the episode ends with the band's performance of The Goonies Are Good Enough. If being inundated with all of that didn't immediately make you want to wear crop tops and bleach-stained pants for all eternity, congratulations on getting your shots ahead of time. Jokes aside, when you really look at it, this show was pretty forward-thinking for its time. It does say something that back in the early 80s, a show put together a cast of kids not only of different races, but all different ages as well, while showing they could all still function as a cohesive unit. And they weren't afraid to take other chances. Not only was every kid given their chance to shine in any given musical number, but so often they would perform numbers their gender wasn't known for. One episode, you'd have the girls performing Billy Joel.
Tell her about it, let her know how much you care. When she can't be with you, tell her you wish you were there.
And then the next time, you'd have the boys getting down to the Pointer Sisters. That's not to say there weren't difficulties with some of the productions. You may have heard of a term called bowdlerizing, which is pretty much someone's attempt to make a piece of performance or art less offensive. Let's just say this show had to do it quite a few times with some of the numbers they performed. It's actually pretty funny to see how much they had to change in order to perform the Pointer Sisters' I'm So Excited, a song that is basically about a hot-to-trot woman getting ready to get it on with her man.
I want to love you, hold you, always be around you. I want to squeeze you, please you. We're glad to have you back, and if you join the show, I'll let it go.
Let's just be glad they never did Olivia Newton-John's Physical. It's pretty clear that Martika had the most abilities of them all. She always seemed to have so much enthusiasm and energy in all her performances. It makes you wonder how much Jolt Cola she downed before going on stage. But at the same time, she still played off of the other members of the band as well, acting almost like the big sister and helping everyone else feel more confident in themselves. And it definitely helped. Rasan was really underappreciated as a vocalist and musician. Stacy and Renee had gifted voices in their own right, as you'll see later. And Ryan, At least he was trying. Sadly, this group did not last as long as many of their fans would have liked. Martika left after the third season in what seemed to be a mutual agreement from all parties that it was time for her to move on. She was actually replaced with 2 new cast members in Connie Liu and Richard Schaff. Eventually, all of the original cast went their own ways and were replaced, with Stacy having the longest tenure of anyone on the show, and actually went from being the youngest cast member to the oldest during her time there. And it definitely wasn't the end for many of their careers after this. Martika would go on to release a number of hit singles in the 80s, most notably the chart-topping number Toy Soldiers. Stacy and Renee would reunite to briefly perform in the band Wild Orchid, but then Stacy would eventually go on to her other musical endeavor. You might have seen her in it. Yep, little Stacy Ferguson became Fergie. That sweet little girl who innocently performed numbers like He Could Be the One would grow up to help create numbers like MILF Money and My Humps. Consider your childhood dead. None of this is to say their replacements on Kids Incorporated were completely bereft of talent. The full cast history also includes Eric Balfour, who would star on 6 Feet Under in the 6th season of 24, Haley Johnson, who would have a recurring role on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and Love Hewitt. Yes, as in Jennifer Love Hewitt. Even with all its frequent changes in both cast and production companies, the show managed to endure for 9 seasons, 7 of those with the Mouse-eared Empire, leaving it still as the longest-running show in the Disney Channel's history. Though you're pretty much never going to see it on Disney+, as even if they were willing to pay the rights for all of the songs used, it's actually MGM that technically holds the rights to this show. Kids Incorporated may just be the stupidest, most insane, nonsensical TV show made for any demographic, and I love every single dumb moment of it! Oh, it's formulaic as all get out. The songs are so obviously pre-recorded, and the whole look and aesthetic are as dated as someone driving a DeLorean in hot pants. And still, the whole thing even today just exudes so much charm and innocence that it can't help but make you smile. If you grew up around theater, you understood these kids. You were these kids. Your everyday problems often felt like the weight of the world was on you, but the moment you got on that stage, you felt like you ruled the world. I dare anyone to dig up any one of the episodes or song clips from this show that can be found over the web and not find yourself dancing, clapping, and singing along within a matter of seconds. It may be at the top of the list of those shows that will never get a true home media release, but it needs to keep being spread around and shown to people as much as possible. Because in an age where everything seems to be getting more morbid and more depressing, we need the crazy, upbeat, up-tempo charm and fun of something like Kids Incorporated more than ever before. And now that the cats have gained control of Stupidiots' long-range tracking system and turned my zapper into a fun gun, that's exactly what I'm gonna do! Because damn it, we have endured nothing but misery and pain in this world for years, and it's